This is the concert Americans remember as the ultimate countercultural event. Woodstock, a 3-day concert full of peace and music, took place on August 15th through 18th in 1969. The concert came about from the later coined hippie movement, which aroused from the young people who opposed the Vietnam War, rejected traditional values, wore bright colors, engaged in the use of illicit drugs, and loved their rock and roll. The idea of the concert came from 4 young men with unlimited capital looking for both interesting and legitimate investment opportunities. These men got together and formed Woodstock Ventures. They discussed the idea of making a recording studio called Woodstock. This idea eventually evolved into an outdoor festival. Bands such as Creedence Clearwater Revival, Jimi Hendrix, and Janis Joplin all played. At first, the organizers admitted it was really hard to get bands to play, but once the first band of Creedence Clearwater Revival agreed to play, the other bands and artists did too. The concert would be too big to take place in Woodstock, but luckily Max Yester agreed to let the concert take place on his 600-acre farm in Bethel, New York. The festival drew about 500,000 people and was headlined by now legendary acts such as Jimi Hendrix, The Who, Grateful Dead, Joe Cocker, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Young, and of course, Janis Joplin.
This is Jackie Burkhart interviewing Janis Joplin, who just performed at Woodstock 69.
Hello.
So, Janis, what does Woodstock mean to you?
It was really just peace, love, music, and we had a lot of fun. It was really fun performing.
What was it like working with Jimi Hendrix?
He's a very cool guy, obviously a legend. Can't wait to see what he does next.
What did you feel about performing with a crowd this size?
It was pretty crazy, but I liked it because we just went with the flow. You know, it wasn't planned out. It was just how life was meant to be. We just went where it took us, and that was how it was meant to be.
So, what have you done for the anti-Vietnam War movement?
Well, I think as many people know, and similar to other artists at Woodstock, I'm against the Vietnam War, and I have protested. I'm for the protest, just trying to get our troops out of there.
The Vietnam War was what sparked the counterculture movement, as the war was being broadcasted on televisions in American homes. Citizens were now able to see how terrible the war really was, hence the strong growing opposition to war participation by the American people.
In this age of protests, one of the most recent finds 4,000 Londoners decrying British support for U.S. action in Vietnam. There were a few minor scuffles, but no arrests. Hippies, would-be hippies, and just plain folks made a colorful scene with wild costumes, uninhibited dancing, and general high frolic.
Woodstock had such a great impact on the surrounding areas that it graced national headlines.
The folk rock music festival, which brought 350,000 people to a rural area 2 hours from New York City, finally ended at dawn's early light. But while the music is over, the aftertaste lingers on.
This is one reason Max Yasker's neighbors are upset because he leased his farm to a rock music festival. This is another. More than 350,000 people, mostly young people, showed up to hear the greatest rock groups in the country. The promoters billed it as 3 days of peace and music, and for most people, it was just that.
Look what's happening.
Woodstock was the event that defined a generation.
People try to put us to down, talking about my generation, just because we get around. Talking about my generation, things they do look awful. Talking about my generation, I hope I die before I get old.